The commencement ceremony of the Seattle University School of Law is now convened. Father John Topol of the Society of Jesus and Jesuit assistant to the dean will offer an invocation. Thereafter, the president of Seattle University, Father Stephen V. Sunborg of the Society of Jesus, will provide a welcome and opening remarks.
You hurl galaxies and keep the seas. You spin planets and quarks. You vein violets and paint all we see in glorious hues. You have created through four fundamental forces a universe in harmonious interaction. And you've created humans with minds and hearts so that we may create in our law and politics a harmonious world which we call justice. We thank you that this ceaseless search for justice animates the administration and faculty of the Seattle University School of Law. We thank you for these students who have already begun to create that justice in our world. And we thank them for persistence in long days and nights of study. Be with us now, so that we may understand our degrees to be not access to professional privilege, but a vocation to serve. May this graduation ceremony fill us with awe at what we have accomplished and commitment to what we can become. Together we say, Amen.
Amen. Each time that I give a welcome at a School of Law commencement, I'm allowed to make a few remarks and on a subject of my own choice. So I'd like to do that today, but first, welcome and congratulations to you on your graduation from Seattle University and from Seattle University's School of Law. They tell me that over my last 23 and a half years as president, I've given out and I have my name on 49,871 diplomas from Seattle U. I think it will be the law school commencement in May that will push me over the 50,000 mark, but you're going to get me there closer. So thank you for being a Seattle University student. Welcome to this special commencement just for you, and congratulations now for my remarks. At a virtual Christmas party last Friday, there was a set of numbered questions we could be asked. A number was drawn, and that was the question we had to respond to. My question is, what is the worst gift you have ever received? I could tell you about that another time. The question that I wanted was, what is your favorite quotation? My favorite quotation is, don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you think. I like it because it takes me to what I'm most interested in, which is how much does the culture in which we live condition our thinking so that it's not really our own thinking, but it is our culture thinking through us. There's no such thing as thinking outside of a culture. One is always culturally conditioned. There's no culture-free place to stand. So how do we know if what we think is really our own thinking, and how do we know what is true? Benjamin Franklin perhaps comes to the rescue here. He said once, a lie stands on one foot, truth on two. A lie stands on one foot, truth on two. For example, our American history is a lie if it stands on the one foot of history as written by the dominant privileged class. Or the political views of the coastal elite is a lie if the only accepted or acceptable view is what we think on this 100-mile inland strip on the coasts of America. Each is a lie because it stands in one predominant culture alone. We can only approach the truth, and we can only approach knowing what we really think on our own if we can stand also in another culture. This is the advantage not only of visiting another culture, but going deeply enough to actually think and to feel within it. That helps us to find two-footed truth. And it's this, I think, which drives me on July 1st, the day after I finish as president, to head off to drive across America. I want to know America. As I often say, it's good every once in a while to leave Seattle and visit America. I want to know what it's like, and I want to search for how is it that 74 million people think, what was it they think in terms of voting differently from how I did in November? How, if I stood in their culture, might I come to two-footed truth about America and discover the truth of what I truly think? For as that favorite quotation of mine goes, don't believe everything you think. Now, I believe that law and legal studies is a culture. It's a way of thinking and deciding and acting. It has its own values and principles and methods and procedures and context. So you've been standing in two cultures, the one you and I live in with all of its varieties and its various subcultures, and then the one of the culture of law and legal studies. So balancing or straddling these two standing places between the standpoint of law and the place where all of us stand, do you have a better chance of coming to two-footed truth and of knowing and discovering the ways in which our culture has impeded you from knowing and trusting what you truly think? I believe this underlies the greatest challenge of our country today, its polarization, which is all of us standing on one foot, living a lie, but believing it is the truth. How much all of us need to listen to know, to appreciate, to think within, to see the reality from another place, not just for some hope for reconciliation, but just as much for the credibility to others and even to ourselves of our own thinking and views. We may not need, as I want to do, to drive across America to do this so that it can really sink in, but in some way we need to be immersed in the world of others, different from ourselves, whether in politics or race or gender or economy or religion or homelessness or immigration status or nation or in the profession of law. As I will set out to drive across America, where are you setting out in order to find and think within two-footed truth? Good luck on your journey, and again, welcome, thanks, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, President Sundborg, for those thoughtful remarks, and we really appreciate your presence here with us today. Again, my name is Annette Clark, and I'm the proud dean and an even prouder alumna of this law school. Welcome everyone to our virtual commencement, a celebration of our December 2020 graduates. And I want to emphasize to our graduates that the lack of an in-person ceremony does not diminish one iota what you've achieved. And as a matter of fact, you have achieved more than most of our graduating classes that came before you, because you persisted in your law studies through the unprecedented disruption and upheaval brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. I recently read the book, The Great Influenza by John M. Barry, which tells the remarkable story of the 1918 influenza pandemic that killed almost 5% of the world's population. It was a good reminder to me that we will, at some point, be on the other side of this public health crisis, but also a sobering reflection on the progress we've yet to make in this country and globally in learning how to manage crisis and ensuring that the most vulnerable among us are cared for and not left behind. If we've learned anything through this pandemic and all that it's done to make people's lives and livelihoods more uncertain and contingent, the Black Lives Matter movement and the demand for racial justice in our country, and the divisive presidential election and the subsequent legal challenges to the outcome of that election, it's that we need outstanding lawyers who can envision a better world and are willing to step up and do the work to make it happen. It's surely not escaped your attention, the laws and regulations in place to ensure that the COVID-19 vaccines now being distributed are safe and effective were drafted by lawyers. It's lawyers who are on the front lines of the racial reckoning in our country, including our very own Korematsu Center. And time again in recent weeks, we've seen lawyers and judges in the trenches and on the bench, protecting, defending, and upholding the will of the people and the votes we cast in the 2020 elections. Now it's your turn. And I want you to know that your contributions to the world and your professional success as lawyers will be because of the lives you've led and the challenges you've faced and overcame, and not in spite of them. Resilience is earned. It comes from dealing with what life throws at you and how you respond. And I am so proud that you, our December 2020 graduates, have passed this particular test, and honestly, a test that's far more meaningful than the bar exam, with flying colors. I've heard some of the stories of what you've experienced as you maintained your law studies, worked full-time, and cared for your families, including homeschooling your children and caring for ill family members, all during a raging pandemic. I am in awe of how you've persisted through seemingly overwhelming personal and professional obstacles. Although we, your Seattle U Law faculty, have imparted some important legal tools and knowledge to you in your time with us, so much of what you bring to the world as a lawyer flows from your experiences and from your resilience. I encourage you to own your own unique story and to use it as a source of strength and empowerment and confidence as you embrace your careers. You now have a new entry in your life story. You are an attorney. And that's true no matter what you do with your law degree. The same is true for me. Being a faculty member or the dean of this law school is what I do. But in the story of my life, what I am is a lawyer. We desperately need you, good lawyers educated in the Jesuit tradition, who bring your heads, hearts, and intellect to the table. Regardless of the career path you're pursuing and regardless of your political beliefs, you as lawyers will take an oath and are charged with upholding and defending our Constitution and our laws. We've seen in recent days the importance of maintaining the rule of law, an independent judiciary, and our democratic form of government. You are now the keepers and stewards of this flame and the next generation of powerful advocates for justice. And so I urge you and I ask of you, no matter where your law degree takes you, to use your hard-won education to demand a government for the people that safeguards the common good. And I ask you to serve that common good and to serve justice. Let me conclude these brief remarks by saying that I cannot imagine a world without you, our very own joy-filled, challenging, demanding, and passionate December graduates. Please know that your law school faculty and staff were impressed by your intelligence, your work ethic, and your desire to help others and do good in the world, even during a time of crisis in your own lives. We are thrilled that out of all of the options out there, you chose to attend Seattle University School of Law. It is my greatest hope that in choosing us, you found what you were looking for, and that we helped you build not just a professional resume, but a resume for life. We are truly your law school forever, and we hope you will return to Sullivan Hall often in the years to come. Please accept my sincere congratulations on this singular accomplishment, your graduation from law school. I wish you all the best and Godspeed. And now please welcome Donna Claxton Deming, Associate Dean for Student Affairs, who will introduce our student speaker.
Each year, members of the graduating class select one of their own to serve as class speaker. I have the pleasure of introducing this year's class speaker, Elizabeth Catherine Cohn, better known as Kate. As is true of most of our part-time students, Kate did not come directly to law school. After graduating from the University of Puget Sound with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, Kate completed a Master of Arts in Student Development Administration at Seattle University. She then returned to her undergraduate alma mater, UPS, where she held a number of administrative positions, including Assistant Dean for Student Conduct, Assistant Academic Dean for Operations and Technology, and Assistant Director for Assessment. Despite her career success, Kate was once again drawn to Seattle University, this time to the law school. Kate continued working at UPS during her time at the law school, making the long commute from Tacoma to Seattle to attend evening classes. Despite holding down a full-time job and commuting, Kate immersed herself in the life of the law school. She was a first-year fellow with the Access to Justice Institute, a member of the SBA Judicial Board, and a member of the Social Justice Leadership Committee. She is currently a senior editor for the Seattle Journal for Social Justice, and she was a competitor in the Frederick C. Townsend Moot Court competition. She is a 4-year recipient of the Trustee Law Scholarship. Kate also made the most of opportunities to get real-life experience. She externed for the Pierce County Department of Assigned Counsel. She was a research assistant for the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and this fall, she served as a judicial extern with the Washington Court of Appeals Division II. Kate hopes to become an appellate criminal lawyer, and I have no doubt that she will achieve her goal and be a powerful advocate for justice. It is most fitting that Kate was selected by her colleagues to speak as their class representative. Please welcome Kate Cohn.
Thank you, Dean Deming, for the kind introduction. You have been a guide for me and for many students navigating their law school experience, from Tacoma's University of Puget Sound era to Seattle University's Sullivan Hall, and now most recently virtually. We celebrate your upcoming retirement, and we appreciate the indelible impact you have made in the hearts and minds of many at Seattle University School of Law. Thank you. I also want to extend a thank you to the staff, administrators, and faculty who were with us on this journey. We are truly appreciative for the times that you individually and collectively supported us, challenged us, and celebrated our wins with us. Thank you. Now, to my fellow graduates, I invite you to reflect on what drew you to the law. Please take a moment to think about who or what served as your spark. What motivated you to prepare for and take that grueling LSAT and to apply to law school and to spend long days and even longer nights reading, attending class, writing, and studying for exams? What spark led you to law school and sustained you throughout these years? For me, give me one moment. For me, it was my father. This photo shows the beginning of my early legal training. I cannot be more than 6 months old, and here I am sitting at the dining room table with my father. He is likely working on a brief or a motion. And this photo was by no means a one-off. My father was taking me with him to night bond court once I was out of diapers, and I was pulling cases for him in his office on Saturdays throughout my teen years. He gave me so much exposure to his work and to the law. He taught me to think critically and to defend my positions. And when I was still young, but old enough to conceptualize what he did for a living, I asked him how he could want to defend a person who had, in my simple thinking at the time, done a bad thing. And in that moment, he bestowed upon me what some might call the lawyer's creed. He shared that each person, no matter what the circumstances, deserved the best possible representation under the law. My father taught me about the kind of person I want to be, as a lawyer, but more importantly, as a person. Next, a photo of my father and me in June of 2003, after I walked across the stage at a different SU graduation when I received my master's. a degree I used to work in higher education for more than 15 years. My father flew out from Chicago in order to celebrate me. He was so proud and he was beaming throughout the entire weekend. I dug this photo out of a pile of memories in June of 2017, just before driving from Tacoma to the law school for the first night of criminal law, the start of the law school journey. Having lost my father to cancer a few years prior, I held this photo in my hands and I said, "Dad, I think I can do this. And when I get there, when I get to my graduation day, I will carry this and you will be with me, beaming just like before." My father was the spark that ignited my interest in the law. He was a kind and gentle man, and he was also a brilliant, creative, fierce, and fearless criminal defense attorney. He was a true lawyer's lawyer, and in so many ways, he pushed me to think like a lawyer well before I realized that I wanted to think like one. I absolutely have my father to thank for getting me to this day. And so today, my Seattle University law degree cements for me, as it does for each graduate, the skills that we need to engage in razor-sharp legal analysis, argument, and advocacy. As we stand ready to use those skills moving forward, we should think about the spark that helped us arrive at this place. Many of us worked full-time throughout these years. Many raised families and managed households, and we have friends and partners and spouses and siblings and children and even dogs and cats to thank for picking up the slack and providing support when we needed it most. Some of us cared for parents, and some, like me with my mother, may have even lost a parent during this time. For many, the path had additional obstacles created by systemic racism and injustice, both inside and outside the classroom. And though some more than others, all of us have been impacted by the year 2020. Due to the COVID pandemic, we faced constraints on the remainder of our law school journey. We have also witnessed and joined in the civil unrest that responds to another pandemic, police brutality. We have nervously watched and participated in an intense election cycle full of political turmoil and polarization. These particular burdens created challenges that were almost too great to bear. But I say almost, because we are here. We did it. We went to class often long into the night. We interned and we externed and we volunteered, and we worked harder than we've ever worked before. We voiced our concerns and we advocated for ourselves and for each other. We advocated for clients in mock settings and in clinics and in conference rooms and in courtrooms. We earned this degree. Let me say that again. We earned this degree. We deserve to be here. Recently, I completed a research project in which I interviewed formerly incarcerated individuals about their own right to present their defense, promised to them by the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, a promise that so often in reality remains unfulfilled. One of the questions I asked these former criminal defendants was what they would want to say to a room full of new attorneys, a captive audience, in regard to how attorneys can best advocate for their clients. One participant summed up the sentiment of many perfectly when he said, "Don't lose the spark. Think about why you wanted to do this job and fight for justice." This sentiment really emphasizes a call to each graduate today. Whether we choose to practice transactional law or litigation, civil or criminal, defense or prosecution, big firms or private practices, it does not really matter. We know that there will be hard times when we have worked too long, written too much, or maybe too little, and thought so hard about something that our brain hurts. We might want to give up, but we should not. Instead, we should think about the spark, the person, the thing, or the idea that brought us to Seattle University School of Law in the first place. as we seek to embark on the journey ahead, and as we approach times when our values will be tested, let us not forget our spark. Let's hold on to it, and let's use it to propel us forward to fiercely advocate for others. Further, as we move forward on this journey, let's also remember that our own words, our own actions, our own advocacy may already be, or may one day be, the spark in someone else's story, in someone else's endeavors to pursue their dreams. We are ready. We've got this. We've got the spark, and we can be the spark. Thank you.
Very good.
I would now like to introduce the Outstanding Faculty Award recipient and faculty speaker, Professor Michael Rousseau. Professor Rousseau received his Bachelor of Arts and his JD from the University of California, Los Angeles. He worked for 23 years as a deputy public defender in Los Angeles, including 15 as a senior trial attorney, primarily focused on homicide cases and death penalty litigation. Since joining the faculty in 2011, Professor Rousseau has taught courses in evidence, criminal law, and forensics. Professor Rousseau's teaching style is impressive. Who can make the rules of evidence engaging and sometimes even humorous? Professor Rousseau can, and he peppered the class with the occasional role play, even bringing in a judge's robe and an expert's lab coat. Professor Rousseau also did something unique in our class, at one point speaking from his heart about Rodney Reed, a death row inmate desperately seeking a stay of execution based on new exculpatory evidence. That day, and on many others, he created a nexus between our classroom learning and the realities of evidence playing out in the courtroom and beyond. Outside the classroom, Professor Rousseau has assisted me in many ways, offering brainstorming assistance for my journal article and helping me narrow down my desired career path. And this summer, as students engaged in civil unrest, he hosted a training and offered to be initial counsel for any student who got arrested. There were several times I texted him or emailed him on my way out the door to a protest. His response was always the same: okay, stay safe and let me know when you are home safe. All of this assistance goes above and beyond classroom teaching, and it is part of what makes Professor Rousseau so deserving of this award. I asked others to share their thoughts about Professor Rousseau, and I note these comments come from students who are pursuing various legal careers, none specifically in criminal defense. In other words, the respect and admiration for Professor Rousseau is universal. One classmate shared, he is passionate about the matter he teaches and clearly wants all of his students to succeed. He is a deeply kind person who seeks to provide a small respite from the many stresses of legal education. He shares incredible stories from his own practice that breathe life into the rules that he teaches. Another stated, he is transparent that the law often creates more questions than answers and does not always result in real justice, but his stories inspire students to make a difference and be part of bettering our society. And a third student shared, Rousseau is an incredible advocate for students. The care that he shows towards students is unparalleled. He is an exceptional teacher, mentor, and by all accounts, among the best criminal law professors at Seattle University. These are just 3 of the comments that I received from classmates who appreciate him as much as I do. Professor Rousseau embodies the Outstanding Faculty Award, and he has previously received it in 2016, 2017, and 2019. In short, Professor Rousseau is a spark for many of us, motivating us to engage with the law and use it to advocate for others. I am honored to introduce him today as the 2020 Outstanding Faculty Award recipient and as our faculty speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cohn. I'm very touched, and I'm so honored that you've asked me to be a part of your celebration today, and I'm so honored by this award. I was just thinking as I was seeing my colleagues come up on the screen that there's not a lot of advantages to Zoom, but one of them is you get to see how we all dress when we're just hanging around at home. As you can see. Anyway, I can tell you, I stopped at Home Depot on the way in, and if you walk in dressed like this, you get helped immediately. So the first thing that came to mind when I started thinking about what I was going to say today was, there is nothing this class cannot do. I mean, consider what you've had to overcome since you arrived here and during your law school education. I mean, let's start with the fact that many, if not all of you, arrived here with full-time jobs. Perhaps you're in mid-career. Many of you have families and children to care for. And at the end of a long day, already exhausted from all of that, you had to listen to people like me teaching you about such breathtakingly exciting topics as the parole evidence rule, Rule 26 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, the felony murder rule, and the entire catalog of the Federal Rules of Evidence. And if that was not enough, the whole world then was turned upside down. During your law school career, our society began fracturing along multiple lines. Our national dialogue became poisonous, and you were daily barraged with deeply troubling events. After the killing of George Floyd, protests sprang up in the area surrounding this campus, and helicopters were routinely heard overhead where you lived, where you were trying to study. A portion of Capitol Hill, not 3 blocks from the law school, was occupied for an extended period. You had the most bitterly contentious and consequential presidential election in living memory. And, oh yes, a plague descended on us, which required you and all of us to alter in the most fundamental way the means by which we conducted your legal education. As just one example, as Ms. Cohn can attest, as we made the halting and then abrupt change transition last spring from in-person classes to remote learning via Zoom, I instituted, I believe it was 8 successive, quote, final plans for how we were going to conduct the class and grade the class over a 5-day period. And so, Ms. Cohn, you get your hazardous duty pay for that. So you've moved from interacting with your professors in person and your fellow students in person to this law school television. You've had to deal with us peering into your homes while you peer into ours. I feel as though I have taught evidence and criminal law to at least as many cats as I have law students. And honestly, my dogs at this point have enough credits to be 2 L's. You've had to take your exams from remote locations at the mercy of the gremlins of Wi-Fi connections that giveth and taketh away at a whim. You've been forced to adjust to 3 different grading systems, I think, and 2 different grading curves. And you had to deal with the prospect of an either on again, off again, remote or in-person bar exam, but let's not go there. As I said, there's nothing this class can't do because there's nothing you haven't already dealt with. And just trying to remember what's gone on is exhausting. But for all of that, I am filled with hope for the future of the law that will soon be placed in your hands. I am from time to time, and I'll tell you why, I'm filled with hope, but I'll tell you why. I'm from time to time asked what it takes to be a good lawyer. And of course, it takes a strong sense of ethics and commitment. But what I usually say is it takes perseverance in the face of adversity. It takes resilience in the face of daunting challenges. It takes unflagging diligence in the face of headwinds of opposition. It takes creativity in the face of severely constrained options. It takes courage in the face of fear and uncertainty. It takes courage to stand up and rely on yourself to overcome challenges that others find unprecedented and overwhelming. And it takes courage to willingly come back every day and fight the fight when everything seems to be going against you. I am so filled with hope because you, all of you, have already demonstrated all of those attributes to get where you are today and to achieve what you've achieved despite everything you faced. I'm sure you know of Dr. King's often quoted line that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. If that is true, and I believe it is the work that lawyers do that plays a critical role in bending that curve. You, this class of lawyers, with the perseverance, the resilience, the diligence, the creativity, the courage you have shown, give me hope for the future. Hope that the words equal justice under the law will not merely be words chiseled over the portal of the Supreme Court, but what is actually provided inside of our courts. Hope that the law will be a force for justice and not merely the protection of privilege. Hope that the law will help to ensure that the words Black Lives Matter will be a reality and not merely words we are compelled to say to try to attain some measure of what should be fundamental justice. Hope that this will be a country that treats immigrants, particularly those who are suffering and in need, with compassion and not suspicion. Hope that this will be a country in which women are valued and respected in their daily lives and compensated in the workplace on equal terms with their male counterparts. And hope that this will be a country in which people can be who they are and love who they choose to love without suffering fear, recrimination, and prejudice. A very long time ago, I was motivated to become a lawyer because I could no longer in good conscience remain on the sidelines. I have now all but left practice, but it is a great comfort to me that I leave the profession to you who have shown yourselves equal to every challenge and possessed of every attribute that characterizes the very best that lawyers can be. The law is in good hands with you bending it towards justice, and that is why I'm filled with hope. But for now, please take time to celebrate. You deserve it. Take time to reflect on what you've accomplished. And know that I and the other members of the faculty who have had the privilege to have a hand in your legal education are so deeply proud of you and so inspired with hope by you. So thank you all so much. Congratulations on your amazing achievement. I'm going to miss you. Congratulations on graduating from law school. The best to all of you.
Thank you so much, Professor Rousseau. I think it's obvious to all of us why you've won the Outstanding Faculty Award many times before. And I also just want to thank Kate Cohn for her poignant remarks. Kate, I am certain your father is there beside you today and so proud of all that you've achieved. We now have a special part of the program. It's actually not in your program, so I'm watching Dean Deming as she starts looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. Kate actually started her remarks by mentioning that Associate Dean for Student Affairs, Donna Deming, is retiring in January. And we do have plans to celebrate Donna come January. But I wanted to do something special today because she is the person for 29 years who has been responsible for commencement for our students. 29 times 2 is 58 graduations that Associate Dean Donna Deming has been in charge of. And they have always gone beautifully. Indoors, outdoors, Safeco Field, McCaw Hall, virtual, it doesn't matter. Coordinated, organized, and beautifully done. And by my count, that's about 8,000 law students where Dean Donna Deming has made sure that our students have had a joyous and a celebratory day. And so Donna, in recognition of your work, I am awarding you with the Dean's Medal. It says Established Justice on one side. On the other side, it says Associate Dean Donna Claxton Deming, 1991 through 2020. Thank you so much for all you've done to make commencement such a special day for our students. Please join me in recognizing Dean Deming. All right, we're now to the point of the program where we get to present our graduates. So let's begin. President Sunborg, it is with great pleasure that I present to you the Seattle University School of Law 2020 graduates. These students presented and listed on the printed program have completed the requirements to receive the Master of Laws or Juris Doctor degrees.
By virtue of the authority granted by the Charter of Seattle University and vested in me by the Board of Trustees, and acting upon the recommendation of the Dean and the faculty of the School of Law, I hereby confer upon the graduates of the class of 2020 who have successfully completed the program requirements for the degree of Master of Laws or Juris Doctor with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereunto. Congratulations.
Associate Dean Donna Claxton Deming will introduce the candidates individually. If you would like us to acknowledge you during this part of the ceremony, please select the raise hand feature in Zoom when your name is read, and we will spotlight you for a few moments to celebrate your accomplishments. During a traditional ceremony, you would walk across the stage and be hooded by members of the faculty. The hooding ceremony symbolically recognizes the conferral of your degree. At this time, we would like to invite you or someone who has supported your law school journey to place the hood over your head. Dean Deming, please present the candidates.
Receiving the Master of Laws, Lois Boom, Master of Laws in Innovation and Technology. Kai Chin Chan, Master of Laws in Innovation and Technology Law. Receiving the Juris Doctor degree, Thomas Barrington.
It. Oh, it's fine.
Can you see other people?
Thomas Barrington, are you there? I see a note that some people don't have the raise hand signal. So we'll take a few moments so that Claudine can see if they can find you. There.
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea Chilumuna. Elizabeth Catherine Cohn. Rebecca A. Deliker.
What?
This is a personal.
At least they got my name right.
Mm-hmm.
Without
Laura Catherine Diacono, cum laude. Ashley Grace Selvey Farner, cum laude.
So you didn't get cum laude. What is, I mean,
I don't know.
Nancy Garcia.
it's cool when she gets to have family there. Nancy.
Neil Gerhardt. Abby Elizabeth Hogan, cum laude. Tiffany J. Hong.
이렇게.
Jade Danielle Klein. Chelsea Meyer Liu. Laura E. Lyons. Carrie E. Manchester. Derek S. Martin. Melissa Miles. Gabrielle Francis Nava, cum laude. Mariah Nelson, cum laude. Anne Wynn. Maria Fernanda Rios Martinez. Athrashna Singaraja. Colton D. Stokes. Hannah Marie Thompson Gardner, also receiving a Master of Arts in Criminal Justice.
Dean Deming, is that all of the graduates?
I'm sorry, yes, that's the last one.
Okay. So congratulations to the class of 2020. Let's now please welcome Andy Siegel, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, who will introduce our alumni speaker. You're muted, Dean Siegel. You're muted.
Have I restored? My apologies. For 25 years, Melissa Muir has worked in human resources management for federal and municipal courts. After graduating from Seattle University's School of Law in 2012, she used her legal education and skills to develop a comprehensive video series for the United States courts focused on employers' legal and business obligations in preventing workplace violence. In her current role at Seattle Municipal Court, she focuses on employment law, workplace investigations, and mediations. As an HR professional, Melissa trains and writes in the areas of communication and trust building with federal agencies and courts throughout the country. She has also spoken to international organizations around the world on using HR and legal practices to improve the safety and health of workplaces. She has written for the Western Washington Federal Bar Association, the ABA's Tort Law Division, and the National Center for State Courts. In addition to her law degree, Melissa holds an undergraduate degree from St. John's College and an MBA from the University of Washington. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Honored guests, esteemed faculty, President Sundberg, Dean Clark, Associate Deans Deming and Siegel, and future lawyers. As this complicated mixed-up year draws to a close, it brings a very special day you have so richly deserved. Resilience and determination have brought you here, and I offer joy and hope from your alumni community going forward. Welcome. Come join us. At my first commencement I attended, long story, I was part of 3. Our class speaker spoke of a Thursday night tradition that brought us together. At my second, I said goodbye to many of my 1L classmates. And at my own commencement the following year, my aunt, an earlier graduate, hooded me to formally welcome me to the alumni community. Now, in my latest excuse for sparkly shoes, I am honored and delighted to invite the December 2020 graduates to join the alumni community of Seattle University School of Law. Welcome. I don't know you yet. I'm impressed by your numbers, by the incredible challenges that you overcame to get here to this special morning that reflects such investment and commitment. The diversity, more than half Black, Indigenous, people of color, the range of ages, 2 out of 3 over the age of 30 with all the life experience that brings, the variety of law school experiences, full-time, part-time, LLM, accelerated, transfer. You look like the lawyers of tomorrow. I want to talk very briefly about compassion, commitment, and community. These themes ran through my time as a part-time student and continue in my full-time relationship with the School of Law. Compassion is the first word I think of when I think of the law school. The students, the faculty, the compassion of the program, and the compassion the program encouraged in us professionally and personally as we have gone out into the legal and JD Advantage communities. My 1L year, I dropped out to take care of family matters, except Carol Cochran listened and cared and helped me find a way to take a leave and return. 2 years later, I walked back into Sullivan Hall, bracing myself for unfamiliar faces. Instead, before I'd reached the stairs, a woman I'd taken crim law with, now a 3L, called me by name and welcomed me back. The compassion she showed was more than an act. Compassion is a core value embedded in how we learned the law, how we practice the law, and how we participate in our communities. This graduating class is amazing. Commitment shines bright in you. We know that these commencement gowns are clever covers for your superhero capes, the many different paths that brought you here and the many that will take you forward. The competing demands of work, family, school, world chaos, the commitment to doing the assignments, to making it to class, to getting through finals and persevering. Your group dug deep to get here. And you are welcomed by an alumni group, especially your fellow December graduates, that understand some of what you did to get here and a sparkle of what you're capable of next. We celebrate your commitment. Community is woven in the fabric of the School of Law. All the ways we built community in person, the ways you found to keep community when you can't be in person. When it doesn't tie neatly in a bow at the beginning or the middle of the next chapter, we offer the warmth and constancy of community and welcome you into the larger alumni community. I recently had a complicated transaction that the pandemic made seemingly impossible. I reached out to a classmate for help posting on the listserv, and she offered instead to help me do this seemingly impossible thing. Later, after she had left a tall building in a single bound, I asked how I could repay her time and expertise. She said, "You deposited so much for the law school class. It's okay to make a few withdrawals." Wow. That community, that invitation to make a few withdrawals is the one we invite you to, the one we welcome you to. Whether it's advice, social media connections, formal alumni services forever through the law school, we welcome your compassion, your commitment to the alumni community. Welcome. Come join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for that perfect introduction to our law school alumni community. At this time, the benediction will now be offered by Father John Topol.
Source of all that is good, we ask you to bless these graduates. As they are doctors, help them to teach others aright. As they are lawyers, help them make law a matrix of justice. As they are humans, help them be compassionate citizens. Above all, make them lovers of the weak and oppressed, as well as of the powerful and elite. Make them always grateful for the gifts they have received, their talents and education, their faith in the human project, and so may they become generous givers of their wisdom and skill. May we ourselves always be there to support them in their glorious vocation as ministers of justice and preservers of peace. Bless us with these gifts as we together say, Amen.
Thank you, Father Topol. Before we close our program today, I want to take the opportunity for us to all applaud and congratulate our graduates. So however you want to do this, whether you want to unmute, have your videos on, for those who are joining us on YouTube, let's give a huge round of applause to our 2020 graduates. Congratulations, everyone. I do want to just take a moment to say some thanks as well. President Sundborg, thank you for being here. We know that you don't have very many graduations left before you also retire. We really appreciate you spending this morning with us and our graduates. I already thanked Dean Deming, but I also want to recognize two other individuals who are behind the scenes working to make this graduation be so special. Those two people are Deanne Ketchum in the Dean's office and Claudine Benmar in our Marketing and Communications office. Thank you. And with that, I will announce that this commencement convocation is now concluded. Congratulations, enjoy this day of celebration. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. So long.